Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Horohoro Shaman King Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. This is the second deck. I'll be doing a deck profile from the Shaman King title booster series. This deck focuses on one of the main characters, Horohoro, and his spirit, Koro, which basically allows you to freeze your opponent's rearguards in a very Mega Colony-like play style. Horohoro's main element that he uses is water and ice, so freezing is very fitting, making it so your opponent either can't stand their units, or you basically place them where you want, and then they can't attack with them. It definitely does focus on a lot of normal orders for the deck, and then also being able to oversoul with Horohoro. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, our starter is Horohoro, just the standard when wrote upon. If you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Koropoker, our friends, Horohoro. These are the spirits that Horohoro protects in the Shaman King series. And I think I said it's Koropoker, I believe, how you pronounce it. But when this unit is placed on Vanguard by riding from Horohoro, you search your deck for up to one Koropoker Kororo, call it to your back row, center, rearguard, and shuffle your deck. So it definitely does help with the initial setup, just being able to search out your main go-to spirit in the deck for then having some drop zone usage as well. Our grade 2 is Victorious is he who strikes first, Horohoro, on Vanguard. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked while boosted by a unit with Kororo in its card name. Put a card from your hand to your soul, search your deck for up to one Horohoro order, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So you should always have the Kororo unit to boost because you'll have searched it off of the grade 1 as long as your opponent doesn't somehow retire it. And our grade 3 is, let's get serious, Horohoro, the main go-to grade 3 in the deck. But we do have sort of like a cross ride unit in the deck as well that you can focus on riding and then persona riding with. The Let's Get Serious Horohoro is more of an additional drive unit, and also being able to put a rearguard with Kororo into its soul to choose a Horohoro order from your drop zone, put it into your hand, and this unit gets plus 5,000 till end of turn. Now for the additional grade 3s in the decks, I was mixing back and forth between the additional units to run. You can go for the extra drive power and not really focus on the cross ride, but it does work well being able to at least ride this unit into it and then go for the additional persona ride along with this one. So I am mixing around some of the numbers. You can mix and match these units how you want, but with the ruler of the world of ice, Horohoro, you do have to have your grade 3 be a unit with Horohoro already, so you can't use this unit in the ride deck to rely on, but still being able to focus on those persona ride numbers and also being able to retire your opponent's grade 1 or less rearguards and also have this unit get plus 10,000 in extra critical to end of turn is definitely great. And for the fact that you can use 2 orders at the beginning of your main phase by choosing a normal order from your drop zone, putting it into your hand, and then playing 2 until the end of turn. So definitely giving you more of a boost in power for the deck altogether. I would definitely maybe increase the number of World of Ice Horohoro and then just keep the 1 copy of Let's Get Serious Horohoro in the ride deck. If you wanted to run additional numbers, you can always adjust some of your grade 2 count as well for the added backup. Now I can show what unit you can take out for additional numbers of these cards. For the grade 2s, I'm running 4 copies of Making Your Dreams Come True. Horohoro on rearguard, once per turn, counterblast 1, choose 2 of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit, and they cannot stand during your opponent's next stand phase. So very, very strong for a once per turn, just on the rearguard circle, for a cost of a counterblast. You really don't use the counterblasts up too much, since both of your grade 3 Horohoros don't really rely on them. So you can save them for some of your other cards, including this one. And on rearguard during the battle, this unit attacked a grade 3 or greater unit, it gets plus 5,000. Meaning it could be a 15k on its own or 25k if you do persona ride. For the additional grade 2 backups, I'm also running 3 copies of Unyielding Bonds, Tao Ren. When this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Horohoro or Joko in its card name, this unit gets plus 10,000 until the end of that battle. At the end of that battle, if that unit attack hit, counterblast 1, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and discards it. So it's discard power, but it's still, I would say, an option grade 2 to run. If you want to increase any of your grade 3 count, you can always take out these Tao Ren for additional copies of your grade 3s. With the other grade 2 being 3 copies of Wind of Laughter, that will save the world, Joko. Now this can be another option to take out. It's a searcher for Horohoro, and even if you don't search for the use of the Counter Blast and Soul Blast, you can at least get your counter charge back afterwards. But being able to either have either of these grade 2 options is very viable, since they both work with Horohoro as the Vanguard, but also being able to just have one of them taken out for the grade 3 of choice for additional unit numbers is also a good option. Moving on now to the grade 1s. I was mixing and matching between how many of the Horohoro and also the Pirika, realizing the same dream as her brother, grade 1 units I wanted to run the deck. I may go 2 and 2, but for now I'm running 3 copies of Pirika and 1 copy of Horohoro, just because you can search the Horohoro, so it's more of a one-of search to add to your hand off of your grade 1 Horohoro, unless you draw the card, obviously, but lesser numbers. And then just being able to, from the drop zone, if you have a Vanguard with Horohoro and its card name, and that unit did not oversoul this turn, you can bind this card, choose a trigger with Horohoro and its card name from your drop, and call it to rear, giving you one of your Horohoro triggers to also be able to oversoul with. But once again, you can mix and match. If you get more copies of Horohoro, you can always take out some of the other copies of Pirika, which just is a rest unit to recycle some of the Horohoro orders from your drop zone back into your hand. And then for the last of the grade 1s, I'm just running 4 copies of the Sentinel. There's really no difference between the Sentinels, whether you go with the one with Yo on it or the one with the Shamanic Oracle on it. It's more of a villain hero kind of use, but still the same card abilities for both. And moving on now to the orders, I'm running 4 copies of Cao Printed Wep. With this card, play this card if you have a unit with Horohoro and its card name. Choose one of your opponent's back row units. Your opponent moves that unit to an open front row rear guard, and they cannot move it. Retire that unit, and choose a Horo order, not named Cao Pre-Wep from your drop, and you may put it into your hand. If you put a card, bind this card. So it's so you can reuse and use more than one order per turn with the usage of your grade 3 World of Ice Horohoro, just being able to recycle but also bind, so you can't just loop the cards as well back into your hand also with those numbers, but just being able to, and if they cannot move it, retire that unit. So they have to be able to move that unit, otherwise it'll be retired. And it's good for the setup and just adding some of the other orders back to your hand, which we are also running 3 copies of Masoso Coupe. If you have a unit with Horohoro and its card name, play this card with a Soul Blast of 1. Draw a card, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards, and that unit cannot stand during the next stand phase. Just more of a frozen play that I mentioned before with some of the orders you run with Horohoro. And lastly, 2 of the Emis Nocus Pekar, which this card, if you have a unit with Horohoro and its card name, play it with a Counter Blast of 1. Draw a card, choose one of your Vanguards with Horohoro and its card name, and it gets plus 10,000 power. Just more of a boost unit, but still you're able to activate 2 orders at a time with the deck, so activating both gives you more of a freeze power against your opponent and a power and setup with your own Horohoro deck. For the other triggers now, which we'll move on to after the orders, I am running for the criticals 7 total. I run 3 of the Kororo and 4 of the sealed Ultra Senji Ryukets for the pressure, but still you want to be able to oversoul, so you may even want to increase the number of Kororo to 4 and then just 3 of the Ryukets, but it's player preference at that point as well if you're pretty confident that you'll have enough Kororo to oversoul with Horohoro. And I also run 4 copies of Cute Kororo. Now once again, you can mix and match with Blessing of the Great Spirit, but having many numbers of Kororo is definitely more important, I would say, than the actual shield cards, because it's the main play style of the deck altogether. With the last of the triggers just being Don't Be Sad Kororo, the heal trigger, having as many spots as you can with the spirit needed for the Horohoro deck. And our over trigger is the Close Pair Under the Moonlit Sun for the additional power of being able to deal damage to your opponent, but also if it's in your hand, being able to set this card and retire all of your opponent's cards, making it as a retire all of your opponent's rear guards play effect as a normal order. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Like I said, definitely happy with the results of the deck. It seems like a pretty fun build to use if you're a fan of Mega Colony, just with its freeze aspect. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.